This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, there he is, the man, the myth, the legend that is Cameron Wolfe, ready to join us and rock and roll a little bit. We'll get to the Dolphins and Sony Michel in just a minute, but congratulations to your Sixers. I thought the Heat would, be a little bit more in control of this series. I still think Harden is close to cooked as it is, but he's finding a little bit of fumes left in that gas tank that he's dragging around. But Embiid, bro, Embiid, there is no answer for Embiid for the Miami Heat. None. None. He froze. It's not the day you need to freeze. I need you to talk so I can rest a little bit there, Cam. So we get Cam and he freezes. Tell you. That's my luck. You guys have to lower the volume on the commercials. They are way too loud. Besides watching Sony Michel twice a year with the Pats, I was never overly impressed. He's a good player. Yes, now we got you.
Yeah, sorry.
So yeah, we have no answer for Embiid. Your boys.
Oh no, he's the most dominant big man in basketball. I don't care what the MVP voters say. And it's a big difference, right? A big difference when he's on the court versus he's not. So I'm excited for tonight's Game 5, man. You know, a lot of Heat fans were in my mentions talking about Heat in 5, and it was going to be easy work even without Joel. And it's different. It's different. So I'm eager. I'm not going to talk too much because it's a big game tonight. But I do feel good about the Philly boys. You know, I think James Harden's coming back at a different level. Embiid is balling. And the Heat have not been shooting the ball well. So, we'll see.
Well, they didn't, I think they've made too much of that. I think it's their defense that would trigger the offense. That's really the problem. And I keep saying that what you have to do is you can't put Bam on Embiid the entire time because he'll foul out. So what you do is what you've kind of been doing, but you need to stop everybody else. Let Embiid get his points, bro. You're not going to stop him anyway, so why give away those fouls? If you want to give away fouls, if Dedmon wants to play today, if he can, or you're Sabian, brother, I'd hammer him with 12 of those. You know what I mean? And make sure hit that thumb a couple of times. That's probably what I would do with those guys. But my perimeter defense, I'd be playing more Caleb Martin today, and I'd be going after Harden and Maxey and those guys. To me, that's what the Heat has to do. They have to eliminate the perimeter. You're not going to eliminate Embiid. So Embiid's not going to beat you by himself. What's beating you is that the other guys are playing off of Embiid. So let Embiid get his stuff, but stop everybody else. That's what I think the Heat need to do. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, but the scary part about that is Embiid didn't even go off in Game 3 and 4. He had a very, average game offensively. And so those other dudes were eating. So if you let Joel really heat up, then I don't know if it's a close game,
Let him heat up.
I don't know, because regardless, Max is going to get his. He's the fastest dude on the court. James Harden's going to hit some of them step-back threes,
That's
and
why
so
you got to go after him.
The problem is the only guy they don't have an answer for is Embiid. They have an answer in some capacity for all these other dudes. They don't have an answer for Embiid. I'm sorry, Bam. He's not big enough. He's not strong enough. He can't do anything with Joel.
Nope. And what we keep saying with Bam, and we got to stop already. Well, is he going to take the next step? It's not in him, bro. It's not in him. He doesn't have it in him to be a dog on offense. He's incredibly passive on offense. He'll get his points and whatever, but he doesn't demand it. You know what I mean? He doesn't feel like he has to at times take over some. Whereas Alonzo Mourning, he wasn't going to go without you giving him the ball. He was going to say, give me the ball now. And you had to dump it in a zone. And because those kind of guys are built that way. And unfortunately, we keep waiting for something from Bam that just naturally is not in him. It's not who he is.
Big O, sometimes guys are just content being Robin, man. Some guys just want to be sidekicks. Sometimes they don't want to be the superhero. It's fine. We're not all built to be superheroes. So I think that Bam is content being Robin. Problem
Yep.
is, I just don't know if they have a super Batman there. I love Jimmy. I just don't know he's a good enough Batman to get you where you need to go.
No, it's all the other guys that have to become the Robins. That's kind of
Right.
what this team is, and so if they're not playing defense, I would expect Gabe Vincent to play tonight because he can play some defense.
Right.
And instead of everybody talking about Duncan, dude, Caleb Martin's the guy that I would be playing in this game tonight because he can also make threes, but he can defend. And
Right.
so, Lowry at this point, I know he says he hasn't had any soft tissue injuries and all that, but look at your age and look at your body, bro. You don't take care of yourself. I mean,
Big O, you've been talking about James Harden been cooked, man. Kyle, I don't know what Kyle Lowry is if James Harden is cooked. Kyle Lowry might be.
By the way, I wasn't a fan of the contract. I wasn't a
Yeah.
fan of the contract because I figured you can get the first year out of Jimmy and Lowry, but the back end of those contracts are going to be terrible. They just are. They're going to be terrible. It is what it is. So we'll see what happens tonight. All right, let's get to Sony Michel.
Yep.
I like the acquisition. I was a big Sony Michel guy when he came out of the draft, but I got to take the L because he has never been able to stay healthy or consistent or reliable. He's had injury history. I think he's had some fumble history too with the Patriots. And I know he played well for the Rams last year. The only thing I'm trying to tell Dolphin fans is don't think he's a savior. Just hope that he's been able to kind of figure things out to stay on the field because he doesn't lack the talent. The Lord blessed him with the talent to be a good running back, but he has just not been able to find consistency. And because of that, I would tell Dolphin Nation, be careful. Unfortunately, Sony hasn't been reliable. Your thoughts?
Right. So I think the signing was fine. I think they signed him 1 year, $2 million deal. I think the thing you have to understand with Sony Michel is his days of being a lead feature back are over, in my view. And so I think you're signing Sony Michel to be a part of a rotation. And so you already have Raheem Mostert, you already have Chase Edmonds, you already have now you have Sony Michel. You currently have you have Alec Ingold, and those are going to be your top 4 backs on your roster. And so I don't know if Gaskin makes this roster. I don't know if Ahmed makes the roster. Maybe one, definitely not both. But those 4 guys I mentioned are going to be your 4 backs. And so you'll have a role for each of them. And so Sony Michel's issues have been injuries, his ability to stay on the field, his ability to do all those other things. But if you're playing Sony Michel 8 to 10 carries or touches a game versus 18 to 20, I think you get a better version of him, a more healthy version of him. And the one thing in the Mike McDaniel history, when you watch San Francisco running backs, is that they find a way to use all of their backs in a variety of ways. And so I think fantasy football holders are going to hate this team because there's not going to be a back that there's not going to be a back that's going to get 100 yards consistently. You're going to have a conglomerate that gets 100, 150 yards, and nobody's going to be the guy. And so I think that's why bringing Sony Michel makes sense. He's an inside runner when you didn't really have that role on this team. You had, Mostert's going to be a fast dude on the outside. Chase Edmonds going to be your top receiver who can do some things in and outside as well. And then Sony Michel can be your short yardage. Yeah, he can be your guy along with Ingold to do a lot of those short yardage situations, to be able to use the third and shorts and goal line situations. And everybody has a role. And I think that's how you'll see it fit. So as long as your expectations are, the right way and not that say, oh, Sony Michel's coming home, he's going to be 1,000-yard rusher. No, I just don't see it. I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. That's just kind of that's a great way of looking at it with Sony. It adds really good. Hopefully he stays healthy too. That's also going to be the key for him. But I think you make a great point that if he's just a rotational guy, now you're not putting him in the amount of risk that you normally would if you would be featured. And what you said at the beginning is so right. He's seen those opportunities are gone already at this point to be the featured guy. And in today's NFL, dude, they're not looking for those kind of cats anymore.
No, there's like
It's
4 or 5 of those dudes in the league, and even some of
yeah.
those dudes are breaking down. I mean, Derrick Henry is one of those dudes, but he got hurt last year because his workload was too much. Christian McCaffrey he's one of those dudes. But guess what? He's been getting hurt recently
Oh,
because
he
his
breaks down all the
workload's too
time.
much. Joe Mixon's probably the one guy who I think is truly carrying that lead load who hasn't got hurt. And hopefully, knock on wood, I'm not jinxing him. But there's not those backs these days who are 25 to 30 carry guys who can consistently carry the load. Teams are figuring out, hey, we need 2 or 3 backs to figure it out, a receiving back, an inside back, and do it all back, and we'll make it work. And I think that's what you're seeing with the Dolphins now. So, I mean, if we look at this thing full picture, I think the Dolphins are completing a lot of their offensive positions. We talked about holes coming in. I mean, center might be the last one that people would say on the offensive side of the ball that needs some competition to be filled there, although I could see them just running in with Eater and being fine with that. But overall, they're trying to cover a lot of the holes. Receiving room is set, tight end room is set, quarterback room is set, and now the running back room is set the way it'll be. I don't think there's going to be any more significant adds there. So your offense is coming in together. I imagine there's going to be at least another offensive line signing between now and training camp, and then you'll get the full view of what the 2022 Dolphins roster is.
Jamie says, Big O, I think Sony will be a third down and sometimes red zone back on this roster to help get some tough yards. What I would say to Jamie, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, is a lot of their backs can do a lot of the stuff. A lot of the backs can do maybe not short yardage, everybody, but a lot of those backs are going to be able to be third down backs, a short yardage back, pass catching backs. They really, they really try to get guys that are versatile so that way they can play them in many different ways. So I don't think that Sony will be just that label, just like I don't think Chase will be just one label either.
Yes. And a lot of it, honestly, is going to be a lot of the hot hand vibes. If you watch the Patriots or the 49ers these days, a lot of times it'd be interesting because they would have a surprise inactive one week based on the game plan. Like it might, for example, all of a sudden Chase Edmonds is inactive and you're like, what? And maybe their game plan this week is to be physical. We want to run the ball downhill, or maybe it's Mostert, or maybe we want our receiving backs and Sony Michel's down. So I think a lot of times you're going to see them riding a hot hand, and because of that, maybe one back doesn't get that love that they normally would. So I think you'll see Mike McDaniel really use his creative juices. I know their running back coach Eric Studesville, he likes everybody to be complete back, but I think you'll see them used a lot in their specific roles and kind of go from there. But like you mentioned, Edmonds, he's a guy who can line up as a receiver. So I wouldn't be shocked to see, certain formations where Sony Michel's in the backfield and they move Chase Edmonds out to slot receiver.
Right.
And you get both of your backs in that way, and you get a little bit more versatility on offense. Or Raheem Mostert, use him as a motion guy and use him on sweep plays and use his speed out on the outside. So the variety gives you the ability. And like you mentioned, let's just be real, all 3 of those guys have injury histories. Chase Edmonds has never played 16 games as a starter in his career. Raheem Mostert's coming off a serious injury. Sony Michel's coming off his injury. So you got 3 injury-prone dudes. Hopefully one of them stays healthy by the end of the year. That's your hope. So you kind of piece them together, and you think that you have a good backfield with the conglomerate instead of trusting one of them.
Yeah, exactly. It's we had the injury-prone receivers. This year it'll be the injury-prone running backs. Speaking of love, not that it's going to mean anything in victories, but the Dolphins this week and weekend with everything with Formula One, I'll say this, throughout this offseason, Mike McDaniel has connected more with his players than Brian Flores did in 3 years. So I'm just saying, it's just pretty impressive what's gone on. If he can't get the most out of his guys, then he did a shitty job of connecting, because he has connected enough that maybe those guys are going to sell out for him a little bit more when they're out there. Of course, winning is always solves everything, but
winning is certainly important, but it's interesting. I was out in Formula One this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and saw a lot of the guys out there, a lot of the players we saw in the videos. But it was interesting seeing some of the videos come out of Mike McDaniel on the track level, posing with pictures with his sunglasses on. He's all up in the music video with his players, having a good time. It was funny to see, because I don't remember the last time a head coach was kind of like vibing with his players like he was one of the dudes. And so I know the players like him. I know they are liking the different atmosphere. because, as you mentioned, there's a whole different atmosphere with Brian Flores, who's a little bit, tougher or tighter, kind of stern type way of doing things, where Mike McDaniel's a lot looser and a lot more, guys might say, fun. And so, that makes it easier to be around. Now, does that translate to wins? We'll find out in September, but I do think there's something to be said about building a connection, particularly with your quarterback. Just seeing how him and Tua vibe, all that can do is build a guy's confidence. So we've talked a lot about Tua. Is he the guy? Is he not the guy? This is an opportunity where he has a coaching staff that is behind him, that's giving him the verbal and the emotional support. And so it's on Tua to be able to do it. They gave him the receivers, they gave him the support. And I love to see it, because if you draft a quarterback, you should be behind him. So I think that's my biggest takeaway, from him being out there with all the guys, him being at the luau with Tua, him being at these different events, that he is giving these guys the support they need, and they feel it, and they love being around them. And so that means something when you're going in the trenches with somebody. You want to have somebody that has your back and that you believe in. And so I'm excited to see what it comes together, man. Like, I'm trying not to overhype it, because we're in May and football's still 4 months away. But I do think there's some value in seeing these guys all be, jovial and happy-go-lucky with their coach.
No doubt. I'm with you there. I think it's important to have some camaraderie before you start going into, these kind of tough situations. And and if there's a connection already, then maybe the sacrifice is also going to be made too at the same time. I'm with you there. Follow him on Twitter, by the way, at Cameron Wolfe. Catch his work there at the NFL Network. Cam, as always, thank you for taking some time, my brother. We'll catch up later in the week.
Appreciate you. Rest that voice, man. Get
Trying,
healthy,
bro.
man. A lot of honey and tea.
Yes, that's what I'm working on right now. All right, my man. Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
man.
you.
Have a good one.
You got it. Bye. There you go. Cameron Wolfe, baby. And KSDT, they help you in so many ways. It's not just your taxes, but if you're buying a business, they will help assess that business to make sure before you make that purchase, they will go through everything in that business to make sure that you're making the proper investment and you're going to make money. Your will, if you're looking at what's going to happen towards the end of your life and how everything is going to be, kind of set up, you can do all of those things. KSDT does a lot more than just personal taxes and business taxes. They do a lot more. So check it out. Go to ksdtcpas.com. That is Cameron Wolfe.